How do?
Hello.
That was pathetic. So I've just been chatting to Holly. Those that are new to the channel, yeah? Holly is an ex-prison governor. She was never my governor. However, I had a lot of dealings with her. I've always said a good governor is someone who cares about the troops and the prisoners, yeah? So from that point of view, she was a good governor. A little bit about her in a very short, brief 2-minute. She's not wired right. She has got a diagnosis of borderline personality disorder, which means she's got a diagnosis of something that'll probably change a dozen times before she snuffs it, which hopefully is a long time away.
Yeah, that's ages away.
Yeah, that's ages away. Not wired right, very frank speaking. I've got her here to talk about a couple of subjects, one that she knows about, the other not so much. It's just that, you know, it's always nice to bounce off somebody. So, meds are pretty good at the moment. Yeah?
Yep.
Stable.
Yep.
You've got a good psychiatrist now, which hasn't always been the case.
Yep. In fact, I haven't had to see or speak to my psychiatrist for ages. I'm doing that well.
You know, within the last 12 months, been nutted off briefly. Attempts to take your own life. Serious attempts.
Yep.
You know, I'm not talking about, well, I am talking about it very matter of fact because because it is what it is.
And I've talked about
there's somebody on the channel hates that. You stop saying that. Well, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, and I've been quite open in my discussions with you. I think the very first podcast we did, didn't we? I put it all out there, so I'm quite happy to talk about it.
Right, two subjects today. Holly is on a playlist, so if you want to go and see the other interviews, right, 2 subjects. The second one, from a different point of view now, a sort of factual one, we're going to talk about staffing, the subject that no one's addressing, for me. You know, I want to use the word existential. How do you say that?
Existential.
Yeah, I like that word.
Do you know what it means, though?
No. But we're going to say existential crisis.
Existential crisis.
We'll deal with that second. The first one, though, I've been touched by this. I'm sure a lot of people have. It's just disgusting. Which is Thomas, the old fella.
Oh, God, yeah. Oh,
Halloran, who has just been murdered. So if you are not from this country, we have an 87-year-old man, bless him, who...
in a mobility scooter.
Who has been stabbed to death.
Yeah.
It should, for me, have been plastered all over the news and every newspaper. It is a shocking... Well, you know, society for me, it's...
I mean, one of the things for me is what I saw of it. And like you say, it wasn't massively all over the news.
No.
But I think I saw something online, and the guy who did it, who's been caught now, thankfully, because he's a fucking monster, it shows CCTV footage of him walking away with white gloves on, and you can see this man's blood on the gloves, and it just made me sick. It just fucking broke my heart. And funnily enough, I was just talking about it with some mates yesterday. Unfortunately, he's been caught. But what I'm confused about is there seems to be absolutely no motive.
I'll tell you why. There's no percentage. There's no mileage in it for PC, politically correct press. They're more interested in, you know, people who via social media make a big issue about something and nothing.
Yeah.
There's no mileage in it. He's a 87-year-old guy being murdered. The press, for me, if I was a billionaire, I would have the honest news channel and honest newspaper and say it how it is about everything, because they don't. You know, it's pathetic how they deal with issues like this. I tell you what, on social media as well, I tend to stay away from social media now. I do use it, you know, Instagram and Twitter or whatever. I do look at some threads. I don't spend too much time on there. It's full of people.
It's toxic.
Very toxic. But when you look at it, so there is an ex-copper who I have followed on Twitter for a long time, and he speaks like we speak about the prison service. You know, he's not biased. He speaks about failings with management and the police service and recruitment and political correctness and all these things that do affect the job. But he put the video up and said, you know, let's get this guy. This is a terrible crime. And some of the things that people are commenting.
What like?
Just, oh, are we going to do the job for the Met now because they're fucking incompetent rapists and things like this? But it's not just one. You know, one of these threads have got 1,000, and people are just, you know, let's not get away from the fact. For me, an 87-year-old guy, you know, like that, he might as well have been a child, because he's not going to be able to defend himself, is
he? Immobile as well. Like I say, not even... I mean, not that an 87-year-old man can physically defend himself anyway, but he stood even less of a chance because he couldn't walk.
It's the brutality of it. It is horrendous. It is horrendous. And people, you know, it was disgusting.
But what was the guy's motive? What was the guy's motive who did it? Because it wasn't robbery, was it, as far as I'm aware?
Right. So, moving slightly away, but staying on topic. So, again, some people are saying, bring back the death penalty, hang 'em high, life 'em off, whole of life and that. People don't understand, do they, that... I've been talking about another case this morning when I said to you, you know, 18 years for something somebody did does not... Yeah. A lot of people don't realise, whole of life means you are not getting out.
And I've been looking at this recently. Out of the current population of about 80,000 or so...
46?
60 at the moment.
Is it 60?
So that is roughly the proportion of prisoners out for 80,000 who are serving whole life sentences.
Let's just talk about Wayne Couzens briefly got whole of life. Here's the thing about whole of life. There is criteria.
Yeah.
Criteria. If you put whole of life in the UK criteria, it will tell you a list of criteria in order for a judge to consider whole of life.
And people have had whole life orders rescinded or changed on appeal because they didn't meet all those criteria.
Well, Wayne Couzens hopefully has broke the mould, as in he wasn't within the criteria, but they've stuck with it. He appealed it, you know.
He got knocked back.
Ka-ching for the legal system. They'll have all made a few bob out of his appeal. He's got knocked back. He's doing whole of life. For the most serious crimes, this guy, for me, whole of life. And people always go, oh, there'd be the mental health card. I've met people who were unwell and have killed people.
We both
They have been sentenced to 30 plus years, and rightly so, and then gone direct to like Ashworth Hospital.
Yeah. Well, I think of one guy in particular. I think we were both on duty that night. The young guy who killed his mum, killed his sister, did stuff to
it was very disturbing, weren't it?
Body, and then I think he was caught running down the beach naked with something inserted in his backside, wasn't he? And he came to us. Do you remember? He came onto the healthcare.
Yeah, I do.
And I know that he'd asked for help previously, hadn't he? He'd asked for help, like, in the days running up to the murder. He was a heavy cannabis user, wasn't he?
Yep.
Now, I don't know what your take on him was, but when, I think it was, I can't remember who it was, because he came on, wouldn't engage with us at all. He was presenting as delusional, as quite psychotic, not speaking to us. And I think one officer got through to him. It could have been you, it could have been someone else, based on the fact that they had both liked, I think it was either Star Wars or Harry Potter, or, you know, I'm
not owning up to either of them.
Star Wars is okay.
Yeah, I'm a big Star Wars fan.
But yeah, there was something that was discovered that there was like a joint connection there, so we were able to get him to own up.
Yep.
So he was genuinely unwell. He ended up pouring boiling water over himself, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, yeah.
So it's really difficult, because do you think, you have to know if at the time of the murder they were in their right mind. To me, the CCTV footage of the guy that stabbed the old guy, he's just walking away like he's just been shopping in Asda or something. He doesn't look, and I'm not saying you can see mental illness, but my experience is that we can spot them. If you're psychotic, if you're delusional,
Yep.
you've got a look in your eyes, you've got a way that you walk, you've got a way that you talk, and there seems to be, and like I say, I might be making a snap judgment, but there seems to be none of that with this guy. Now, my opinion is, yes, they need treatment, because if they're going to live back within the prison system, they need to be able to function
Yep.
and keep within the rules.
Yep.
But I'll give you an example of the Yorkshire Ripper. He spent a lot of his time at Broadmoor.
Yep.
They got his, and it took decades, but they got his schizophrenia under control, didn't they?
Yep.
Sent him back to prison. And I think that is what should happen. You don't go to...
They've got to be punished for the crime, aren't they?
Yeah.
The fact that they may be mentally unwell doesn't mean that they should go to a mental hospital and
then
be
get
back on the streets.
Exactly. There is still a risk there,
Yeah, of course
because
there is.
what happens if... So when you're released into the community with mental health issues,
Yep.
there is some support there, but you are reliant on that person. So, for example, if they're having depot injections for schizophrenia or any psychotic illness, you've got to rely on that person voluntarily going and getting that injection once a month.
Correct.
So regardless of whether they've been treated in a psychiatric facility,
Yep.
they are still a risk to the public, because if their mental health deteriorates again, they're a risk of violence.
I will add, on the depot front, those of you who don't know, it's an injection, slow release, might be weekly, might be fortnightly, could be monthly. Prisoners we had, when it was coming up to their fortnightly injection, a couple of days before, could go off very quickly.
Yeah.
Very dangerous.
And
you say fortnightly, 2 days before, we've had people...
Yeah, and we've had people refuse to take them, because I think we've said before, in prison we have no authority to forcibly inject or medicate anyone, which in psychiatric hospitals they do. So in psychiatric hospital, for example, if someone was refusing their depot injection, they can physically restrain them and
Yep.
give it to them. We didn't have that in the prison, did we?
No, and the other thing is, sadly, that people are seriously unwell. When they're medicated, they think they don't need medication, and they stop taking it. And very quickly
they're like,
become
oh, I
unwell.
feel well now, or they go catastrophically downhill
Yep.
really, really quickly, don't they? So it's a bit of a double-edged sword. But yeah, this guy, whether he's got a mental illness or not, there is definitely something to be said about the dangerousness of these people and the risks that they pose to the public. Unfortunately, giving someone a life sentence is expensive. It's a serious drain on the taxpayer and budgets, etc. However, that's a small price to pay for the fact that we're keeping these people off the streets. I think we should be doing the same with child offenders as well. They should be kept off the streets for life.
I'll play devil's advocate. How about we stop sending people to prison for nothing, which is what we're doing now, which saves the taxpayers a lot of money.
Yeah.
Reducing the prison population, the most serious crimes need stiffer sentences.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
This is something else I've thought about. For the vast majority of prisoners I've met, and no doubt you've met, on the whole, are well behaved.
Yeah.
However, there is a percentage who need to be kept in high security.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time this country had a proper maximum security prison, like in America, where me and thee are this side of 1 inch glass. with buttons, letting these guys out for showers.
And they're handcuffed everywhere they go. Yeah,
exactly. Now, I'm not talking about everybody. You know, the most dangerous people, yeah, not necessarily everyone who's whole of life. A lot of, you know, they're not nice people, but some of these people that are whole of life that we've come across will never, look at Monster Mansion, Wakefield, and never cause no problems. So I'm not saying everyone who's whole of life needs to be in maximum security.
No. But there is a core group.
It's a certain type of prisoner.
Or life sentence. Not even people doing whole life sentences.
If somebody tries to kill another prisoner or whatever, there's no, I'm not talking about, you know, if somebody is that dangerous, or then maybe we need one of them.
So funnily enough, I was watching something on YouTube yesterday. No, I was listening to a podcast, that's it. And it was covering the case of Richard Huckle. Now, I'm not sure what I can say on, in terms of my language, because I don't want you to get demonetised or anything. But he was called Britain's worst child offender. He used to travel to lots of Asian countries under the guise of being a photographer and a Christian missionary. Eventually got trapped by a Australian police operation, came back to England. He was known for, he'd written a manual, he was on the dark web, he was making videos, uploading images, and he was dubbed the worst of the worst. So he was arrested. They reckon he's had hundreds of victims, hundreds of children. Anywhere they found material from the age of 3 up to 13. Anyway, to cut a long story short, he was murdered in prison a few years back. And when I say, and some people say it's karma, some people say it's justice, but the guy that killed him was convicted of sexual assault himself, so it's all very weird. However, he tortured this guy for an hour and a half. He tortured this Richard Huckle for an hour and a half. Brutal murder, including rape, including just hideous things. Spoon shoved up where you can imagine, pen shoved up his nose into his brain. He'd been throttled, he'd been stabbed, he'd been slashed. He was naked when staff found him. He was hogtied, he was gagged. And the guy, I think he only got something like 18 years. Now, I know a lot of people will say, good on him, well done. But this guy had said, I'm going to carry on doing this to people. So I don't think he targeted this Richard Huckle because of his offences. He just wanted to commit this type of offence. And he said, I will go on to murder further people. And he got 18 years. And you just think, what the actual fuck? This person, this sadistic, regardless of who his victim is, how dangerous is that?
Well, maybe he's our first prisoner that we're putting in maximum security. And it don't mean that they have to stay there forever either.
No, you can no, and I think there's always going to be people that kick against the system and don't comply at all, and it's in the
small percentage.
Very small. But look at Richard Maudsley, for example. He's still in the cages. And he poses no threat to staff whatsoever.
He's not in the cages anymore.
Oh, is he not?
They've done away with him.
Well, he's still isolated, isn't he?
Well, Maudsley, if you don't know who he is, got done for murdering a paedophile. It was a horrendous childhood. He killed someone in Broadmoor along with Cheeseman. Cheeseman actually got out. So there you go. Cheeseman murdered in prison and actually got out, only to return to prison. But Maudsley, what they did to him, again, he was like a political prisoner. It was inhuman how that guy was treated, to the point of having fuck all, nothing. No stimulation, no nothing.
I mean,
long periods of time.
But he did kill another prisoner, so he's committed 2 murders in prison, hasn't he?
However, you know, you should... It was a lass who messaged me about this geezer and said herself, prison officer, and said it was inhuman how he was treated. You know,
because he's no threat to
no,
staff.
no books, no TV, no nothing.
Yeah, no writing material.
Long periods of time, no music, no nothing. You know, there's being safe, and then there's treating people.
Yeah, but and this is what I mean. He can't be let into the prison population because he is, even now, has categorically said he will kill another prisoner.
Yeah.
However, in terms of his rehabilitation behaviourally, why are they, you know, that is
well,
like
you
torture.
could, you see, let me just explain so people understand. When I'm saying the most dangerous in maximum security, I'm on about them being managed in the safe way possible.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean, for instance, if Maudsley was sent there, he can't have a decent room, access to a library, access to gym, you know, ensuite. I'm not saying treat people inhumanely. I'm saying there is a percentage. He's a risk to the other prison population. He's probably got no intentions, even though you'd obviously be wary around him, averting staff. It's a certain type of prisoner he is a danger to. However, you know, it doesn't mean you can't treat him. You know, if there's 9 lads in a unit in our max security prison who are all dangerous, you know, let them have ensuite showers, let them have a gym. You know, I'm not saying keep people in terrible conditions in America when they're literally in a cell where everyone can look in, tiny little cell, and they walk in an exercise yard.
They get
I'm not
out
on about treating people like
1
that.
hour a day.
But I'm saying there is a percentage.
Yeah, I'm thinking particularly about the guy who slashed the 2 Manchester staff. Do you remember?
Yeah.
I mean, when you watch the CCTV footage of that is probably one of the most horrific things I have ever seen. One of the worst attacks on staff that I have ever seen. And it's only for the grace of God, had the slashing that he did been a millimetre either side on these guys, they would have been dead. It's only by the grace of God that they're still alive. Now that man, that he goes into our 9-person.
Again, you can still have a gym and everything else. However,
you go on your own. You're locked in, you're handcuffed when you come out.
Exactly. Yeah. So the old guy Thomas, bless him, whole of life. Would you give someone whole of life?
Yeah, and I'll be interested to follow how it gets on, but I'm still disgusted at how little coverage it's got. It's like quite often you hear in local news about old ladies that have been collared on the doorstep. They've gone in, they've robbed them. They've not only robbed them, but they've beaten them. And they either die at the scene or die a few weeks later. That doesn't make, never makes national news.
I wish everyone would stop buying newspapers and stop watching these news channels. Yeah. They're full of shit.
No, that never makes news. I'll give you another example. Remember, and this is going back a few years. This is probably going back 8, 9 years. There was a prison custody officer,
I remember,
female, at courts in London, that was kicked to death by a prisoner.
She was cuffed to him.
And he kicked her to death.
Yeah.
If that was a police officer, it would have made national news. It didn't even make national news. It was kept under the radar. Very much kept under the radar.
Stop using prison custody officer, the prison officers.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, she was a gran.
Yeah, she was.
She was in her 50s.
A vulnerable target, should we say?
You would think, out of all the roles of a prison officer, actually being courts, escorting prisoners on vans.
Yeah, you'd be relatively safe. But she was kicked to death. I mean, that to me is absolutely horrendous.
They were,
and it didn't.
No, it didn't.
Didn't make any national news.
Because it's not bringing any political awareness. It's not grandstanding or anything like that. It's absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
So, right, we'll watch this space. So, second part. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, I don't know anything about what's coming, so hit me with it, Sam.
We have talked about, for me, staffing issues. Again, if you're new to the channel, the prison service is struggling to recruit, struggling to retain staff. They've got very little experience in management.
They're very young, a lot of them.
So, factually, in the last 2 years, I'm not sure which year, they have had the most successful recruitment. Yeah?
Yeah.
We have talked before about lads and lasses, male jails and female jails. A male jail, if we take a core local jail, we both agreed you need a percentage of lads in that jail to do that job. 70%, whatever. The core business, you need lads. On the other side of the coin, you work at style prison, female prison, you need a percentage of female staff.
Yeah.
Don't you?
Yeah.
For all the obvious reasons. Okay, so in a jail now, a friend the other day was phoned by a security manager, kicking off because on the wing there was a prisoner that needed strip searching and the wing had said we couldn't do it. So this lad is sent to the wing to deal with this. When he gets there, they can't do a strip search because they're all female staff. He is then ringing round the jail to find another male member of staff to strip search this person. Yeah?
Mm.
A course started in that jail, a new course, 12 staff, 11 lasses, 1 lad. That is becoming the norm. They reckon in that jail it is over 50% lasses in the job, females. There is other jails now where they are struggling, and anybody, we don't have to go down this route, do we? Me and you, there is a physical difference.
Yeah.
There is physicality. We've talked about it before. Plus there's also decency and all these things that people don't want to acknowledge. You need lads, males in a male jail. It is becoming the norm. I had a message from a very young member of staff who told me that she had been on duty in a segregation unit and all the other member staff on duty were lasses in a male jail. Again, segregations, on the whole, dangerous places to work. They have a very strict regime and you get problematic prisoners.
Yeah.
The other thing is, they've had the most successful recruitment. It's almost at a balance, and no one's talking about this. People recruited, people handing the notice in. There is a big percentage of people 50 plus, i.e. the experienced staff now, who are going on the sick long term and getting finished.
Do you know what? Funnily enough, I've had so many messages from people recently. They are, and this is experienced staff that I've worked with over the years. People are leaving in droves, whether it be early retirement, medical retirement, just fucked off with the job and generally wanting to go. But people, all the experienced people are leaving in droves, and the message that's coming through is they cannot wait to get out.
There's a lad from a London jail, he's just finished. Not about me. If I say I've coached him, I haven't coached him. He knew he needed to be out of the job. So I've told him my experience of what he'd go through to get him finished, which he's gone through. He's been out of the job 2 or 3 weeks. He said he's never felt so good. His head is clear. He has no regrets whatsoever from leaving. It's happening. Nobody's talking about staffing levels. You know, there's all these other prison issues. The government aren't talking about prison minister, prison service headquarters. There is another union now, but the POA, Prison Officers Association, and the other union that prison officers are now joining, you know, nobody's discussing this issue. They're not discussing the fact that the only people coming for jobs are lasses.
One of the one of the concerns as well is, and I can't remember which of the Tory arseholes that's running for I was going to say president, prime minister. One of them has proposed that they're going to get tough on crime. And you just think these jails are understaffed or staffed by the wrong people.
Yep.
They're decrepit. There's, cockroaches, rats, dirty, state of disrepair.
Yep.
you are a volatile population.
Yep.
People that are serving short sentences that shouldn't be in there.
Yep.
And then you're chucking a load of... Now, obviously, I'm an advocate for females in terms of, I know I've de-escalated situations with men that the men couldn't do. That's a fact. However, the population, like I think I've said it before on your channel, 20 years ago, 20 years ago, you never hit a woman. Never. It was seen as if you hit a woman or a female member of staff, you were the lowest of the low.
You're getting banjoed by the other prisoners.
Yeah. And it just didn't happen.
No.
Everyone's fair game now.
Yep.
It doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter how old you are, doesn't matter what sex you are.
Yep.
Because the nature of the population, the people coming through, you are at risk. It doesn't matter who you are. I know a young female member of staff. I thought the guy that took her on didn't know she was a Thai boxer. But this is in the absolute minority. He dragged her in the cell, tried to assault her. She beat the fucking shit out of him because she's a Thai boxer and she's only little, but she is strong as fuck. She was traumatised after that. Absolute. And do you know what? She felt guilty because she defended herself and she'd done what she did to him.
There aren't many doing that.
No, but I think that's a woman thing. Do you know what I mean? And I kept saying to her, if you were a man that had just done that, you'd be coming out the cell, staff would be patting you on the back and saying, good job, mate. I said, and you're here crying, upset, traumatised. I said, you did what you needed to do and fucking good on you for doing it. But she is in the minority. There are not many women.
No.
In fact, I've never come across a woman that can do what
I've never come across a lass I would want to take into a cell.
You'd want to take her, but she's one out of probably the thousands of staff.
So we can't count her then?
No, we can't count
her. How about this then? So loads of prisons now have enhanced gate security, yeah? Because corruption is on the rise. Young staff, mostly lasses, there is a correlation. It's out of control. But no one's talking about it. I don't see anyone discussing. They might discuss being short of staff, but they're not discussing the mix, who they're recruiting. For me, it is literally just bums on seats. It's not going to get any better. It's going to get way, way worse. They're not addressing it at all.
I was about to say, I mean, obviously, I'm not in the service anymore. I probably would have been party to some of these discussions had I still been in a prison.
Yep.
Obviously, I would have been party to raising concerns, but how can they not see? How can the upper echelons of the prison service not see what's going on? Now,
they can.
Now, yeah, but they're not doing anything about it. Now,
why would they?
But I'm wondering whether the pandemic and the lockdown caused this because they were locked down. They were more easily controlled. I don't know.
It's not. The pandemic hasn't caused the fact that it's all lasses that's going for jobs.
No, but I'm saying because they were in desperate need of staff, I'm wondering if
I will
they
tell
just
you now,
thought...
that is the last job my daughter would ever go for on the planet. Not in a chance would I let her. They're not interested. For me, it's about numbers.
Yeah.
So in the private sector was like that. They were not bothered who they recruited. Here's the thing as well. I'm going to let you have the final say on this. I'll just put something to you. They're building new prisons. Yeah. One of them, they're building a prison in the northwest that can't fucking staff the prison it's got already, but they're putting one right next to it. Yeah. And our last flagship prison, HMP Berwyn, never full of prisoners, never fully staffed. Massive amount of corruption there, enhanced gate security, all sorts of problems, all getting covered up. That's the biggest corruption.
Yeah.
If a number one governor covers up a key compromise, that's where The whole prison should be relocked, every lock change, because either keys have got in the wrong hands.
Which costs over £1 million.
If a number one governor is covering up things like key compromises, the system is fucked.
Yeah.
So, final word on new prisons and how they're going to staff them.
Fuck knows. That's my senior manager answer.
Right, on a serious note, we're going to get Ollie back at least once a month. We're going to talk at some point about... we'll leave it.
Yeah,
we'll not spoil it.
Let's just say this. It'll be around mental health, but a different perspective.
Very much so.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.